The story begins with a thrilling rafting expedition in the treacherous waters of West Virginia's wilderness, where the river roars like a beast unleashed, white water crashing against rocks that jut out like jagged teeth. Alex, a determined young woman with a spirit as wild as the current, paddles fiercely alongside her friends, Trey, the easygoing leader, Sophie, the adventurous free spirit, and Brent, the cocky thrill-seeker, shouting, "Paddle harder, guys," as their raft bounces through the rapids. But the fun turns fatal when the raft slams into a hidden log, flipping violently and hurling them into the churning water. They scramble to shore, gasping and bruised, only to encounter Three Finger, the deformed cannibal hillbilly, lurking in the shadows with a guttural growl, "Fresh meat!" He ambushes them with a bow and arrow, piercing Trey through the chest in a spray of blood. His scream cut short as he slumps lifeless. Sophie and Brent flee into the woods, hearts pounding like war drums. But Three Finger pursues relentlessly, his twisted laugh echoing through the trees like a harbinger of doom dazed and disoriented. Sophie and Brent stumble through the dense forest, branches whipping their faces like vengeful spirits, as Three Finger closes in, his footsteps crunching leaves like bones underfoot. Sophie whispers, "We have to keep moving," her voice trembling. But Brent trips over a root, exposing them to the killer's trap, a barbed wire snare that yanks him into the air, his agonized yells filling the air as Three Finger approaches, with a machete glinting in the dappled light. Sophie watches in horror from hiding, but the scene flashes to Alex, who survived the river and hides nearby, witnessing the carnage. The cannibals, Three Finger, One Eye, and their hulking brother, drag the bodies back to their lair, a ramshackle cabin reeking of decay, where they feast on the rafters' remains. The action shifts to a dusty road winding through the Appalachian Hills, where a prison transport bus rumbles along, guarded by Corrections Officer William Bill Johnson, a no-nonsense veteran with a steely gaze, and his deputy, strapping down high-risk inmates like the ruthless gang leader Chavez, a tattooed brute with a scar across his face, and his crew, soft-spoken Brandon, the quiet Crawford, and the volatile Walter. The bus jolts as Three Finger rams it with a stolen truck, flipping the vehicle in a screech of metal and shattering glass, bodies tumbling like rag dolls. Bill crawls from the wreckage, coughing dust, shouting, "Everyone okay? Stay calm." As the inmates groan and the cannibals descend, One Eye firing arrows that pin Walter to the bus door with a sickening thud, his screams echoing. Chavez breaks free of his cuffs, snarling, "We fight back!" Grabbing a fallen guard's shotgun, the scene exploding into a brutal skirmish amid the smoking ruins. Amid the bus wreckage, smoke billowing like funeral pyres, Bill rallies the survivors, Chavez, Brandon, Crawford, and a few others, forming an uneasy truce against the cannibals, his voice commanding, "We stick together or we die." Chavez eyes him warily. "Don't think this makes us friends, pig." But necessity binds them as Three Finger charges with a chainsaw, revving like a demon's growl. They fight back, Crawford swinging a tire iron that cracks One Eye's arm with a bone-snapping crunch, blood spraying like mist. Alex, the lone rafter survivor, stumbles upon the group, her clothes torn and eyes wide, gasping, "They're cannibals! They killed my friends!" Bill nods. "You're with us now," as they scavenge weapons from the bus, shivs, bats, and guns, the alliance fragile like glass under pressure, the forest closing in with whispers of more horrors ahead. The group trudges through the muddy woods, leaves crunching underfoot like brittle bones, Bill leading with a map, muttering, "The highway's our best shot," while Chavez gripes, "This is bullshit. Let's just kill 'em all." Tension simmers as they spot a cannibal trap, a spiked pit that claims one inmate with a guttural scream, his body impaled in a fountain of gore. Alex shares her story, voice breaking. "They ate them, right in front of me, drawing uneasy glances from the convicts. Three-finger ambushes again, bow drawn, but Brandon disarms him in a fierce grapple, snapping the bowstring with a twang. The cannibals retreat, but not before wounding Crawford, who clutches his side, blood seeping through fingers, the group pressing on, the forest a labyrinth of death, where every shadow hides a blade exhausted and bloodied. The survivors stumble upon an overturned armored truck in a ravine, its doors ajar like an invitation to temptation, gold bars spilling out like pirate treasure. Chavez's eyes light up. Jackpot. We're rich. As he stuffs bags with cash, Bill protesting, "This isn't worth dying for. Focus on survival." But greed overrides caution. The inmates loading up amid the wreckage, Alex warning, "We can't trust this. It's a trap." A distant growl confirms her fears as the cannibals circle, one eye hurling a spear that skewers an inmate through the leg, his howl piercing the air. The group fights off the attack, bullets and arrows flying in a chaotic exchange, escaping with the money, but leaving a trail of bodies. The truck's discovery, a double-edged sword that fuels both hope and doom. Night falls like a shroud, the group camping in a derelict cabin, fire crackling uneasily as Bill tends wounds, his voice steady. "We make it to dawn. We live." Chavez plots betrayal, whispering to his men, "Once we're out, we ditch the cop and the girl." But the cannibals strike at midnight, Three-Finger bursting through the door with a roar. "Dinner time!" Chainsaw buzzing. A brutal melee ensues. Chavez blasts one eye with the shotgun, gore exploding like fireworks, while Alex stabs a cannibal with a shard of glass. Her scream, "Not again!" fueling her rage. Brandon saves Bill from a sneak attack, earning a nod of respect. But Crawford succumbs to his injuries, dying with a gasp. The cabin a slaughterhouse of splintered wood and spilled blood. The survivors fewer and more desperate. Dawn breaks with betrayal. Chavez turns on Bill, pistol raised, sneering, "You're no use to me now." But Brandon intervenes, disarming him with a swift punch. "We're in this together." The group flees to an abandoned mine, its entrance yawning like a monster's maw, tunnels echoing with drips and distant growls. Inside, they barricade, Alex spotting traps, spiked floors and tripwires, whispering, "They know this place like home." The cannibals pursue, Maynard, the patriarch, emerging with a guttural command, "Get the intruders," leading a charge that floods the mine with arrows and axes. Bill rigs explosives from scavenged gear, booming, "Light it up." One Eye charges Alex, but she dodges and stabs him with a pickaxe, his body slumping in a pool of blood. Maynard faces Bill in a one-on-one, axes clashing like swords in a duel. Bill's shout, "For my family," fueling his final blow that decapitates the patriarch. Cannibals defeated. Bill and Alex emerge from the mine into sunlight, battered but alive, the forest now silent like a held breath. They load the remaining money into a stolen truck. Bill radioing for help. "This is Officer Johnson. Send backup." As they drive toward freedom, Alex smiling faintly. "We made it." But the twist hits hard. At a checkpoint, Bill discovers Brandon survived the betrayal, hiding in the truck with the cash, revealing himself as the real mastermind, his soft voice turning sinister. "Surprise, I'm not dead." He shoots Bill, stealing the truck and vanishing into the horizon. The cannibal's curse lingering, a cliffhanger that screams more terror awaits in the hills.